Morning, morning, morning. It is Wednesday. It is the 2022 version of September the 21st. And you are back here with me, Sean Butler, at the Spurs Talk Show, alongside my co-host, Bugsy Malone, as we bring to you episode 50 of Tottenham Walks. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing really well and out on some level enjoying this beautiful, beautiful morning in this late summer autumnal sun. I'm completely misdressed for the occasion. It is what it is. It is what it is. I hope everyone's doing really well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the channel, welcome. It's lovely to see you. If you're not new to the channel, then welcome back. It's also lovely to see you guys. And if you wouldn't mind, regardless of your status on the channel, if you could hit that like button for me, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button for me, and also I'd love it if you could hit the notification bell so that you can be alerted when we go live, especially with the streams, because unfortunately due to scheduling it's difficult for me to give much notice with live streams, and we often just pop up on 5 minutes notice. So hitting that notification bell would be ideal, so you could know when we do that kind of impromptu thing, that dance. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk today about the importance of the 3-5-2. As we all know, the 3-4-3 has been the strategy employed by Antonio Conte for most of his time at Tottenham. It is a formation that served us very well. Last season it got us to 4th. But it is a formation that allows us to be overran in midfield. It's a formation I think that everyone can identify the benefits of, but also the negatives of. Over the last 7 games in the Premier League, I think we've had to scrape through some results with performances that have been underwhelming, uninspiring, but effective. We've managed to pull the rabbit out of the hat and get victories despite the teams we playing against overrunning us. Whenever the other team has some version of a 3-man midfield, it does usually result in problems for Tottenham. Problems that extend back to the defence that is probably, shaky at times, and a defence that most would agree needs improving at some point, and often results in giving away too many opportunities to the other team unnecessarily. Opportunities that thus far haven't really been taken advantage of many times. But a lot of the time, the problems that have been created for Tottenham have come from the breakdown in transitions and not being able to be there for the second ball or the third ball in the midfield because there's too many men. Now, is that a formation that Conte has played because he loves it? Or is it a formation that Conte played most of last season because we literally didn't have enough midfielders that were fit or good enough to be able to use a 3-man midfield? We do now, and we saw on Saturday against Leicester, the very first time at 3-2 in the game, a pivotal moment. We had gone behind, pulled it back, got in front 2-1, got pulled back, then taken a 3-2 lead with a superb goal from Bentancur, and then some changes were made. The changes that were made were to bring Sonny on and to bring on Bissouma over a few different minutes. But the formation immediately pivoted to a 3-5-2, with Bissouma sat in the middle and being hugged on either side by Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Rodrigo Bentancur. And everything changed. We looked immediately more comfortable, more balanced. There was immediately more space for Sonny to run into in behind. There was more space for Harry Kane to do his dynamic distribution. He could come deep or he could move out wide. There was no one getting in each other's way, which is a consequence that was often found when we played the 3-4-3 against teams who knew how we would set up. And it worked. It really worked. And immediately after that, everyone was saying, have we just landed on our new formation? Is 3-5-2 the way to go? And if it is, in what vein do we utilise it? Do we put Højbjerg, Bentancur and Bissouma in the 3 and play Decky at right wing back and Perisic at left wing back with Sonny and Kane up front, and then the usual 3 midfield, the defenders of Romero, Dyer and say Longley? Really interesting, right? Very aggressive wing backs, but hopefully any of their defensive frailties might be reassured by the fact that you've got 3 midfielders, none of whom are a 10, all of them are a 6 or an 8. Maybe it could work. Or do you go to a 3-5-2, similar style, but with an Emerson or a Doherty at right wing back, and then should you need to, in certain tough games, go to the bench, you'd have someone like Decky on the bench, Richarlison on the bench, Lucas Moore on the bench. You've got an outstandingly creative, offensive-looking bench to pivot to when the time comes in the game. For me, I think it's just super important that Tottenham incorporate it in as many games as possible, because not only for the obvious and direct benefits of looking more comfortable when necessary against tough opposition like Arsenal away, to be able to use that 3-5-2 to not be overrun in midfield and to get a better stranglehold of the game. But I actually think it's also super important because it makes Tottenham less predictable. The very same team could be on the field and the opposition wouldn't necessarily know if we were in a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. You could play Decky in the 10 role and everyone else in the normal system. It also means that the opposition can't prepare for a game with such confidence. Too many times this season I felt that Tottenham was so predictable in their 3-4-3 that it was so obvious with Emerson on the right and Sanchez, or with Romero, but especially with Sanchez, that Tottenham were going to play down the left-hand side through Perisic. And we've spoken before on this channel about my belief, in my opinion, that it was a contorted 3-4-3 with all of the weight going down that way, which led to higher average positions for the left-sided centre-back, the left wing forward, and indeed Sonny getting pushed in as a consequence. And that created a lot of problems in and of itself. But also because of that, it was very easy for smart managers and coaching teams to run the tape. And when you have, whether it's 3 days before your next game when you're playing Tottenham, or whether you have the whole week to prepare, if the coaches and the manager sit the team down and say, this is Tottenham, this is all they do, it's 3-4-3, and we look at every single game that they played, and generally speaking, the variables are quite few and the consistencies are many. It's very easy to prepare. They go out on the training ground and they run drills until they're long in the tooth, because they know that they're going to face that kind of play. If Tottenham can incorporate the 3-5-2 and the various versions of it, whether it's Decky in the 10, whether it's Harry Kane in the 10, whether it's Decky at right wing back, whether it's in the midfield 3, Bissouma as the 6, Højbjerg as the 8 and Bentancur as the 10, or whether it's Bentancur as the 6, Bissouma as the 8 and Højbjerg as the 10, or the other version of that as well, which is possible because all 3 players, and I'll also throw Ollie Skip in there by the way, all 4 players do not necessarily fit a specific role as a midfielder. They are all somewhat defensive, somewhat box to box, and can also offer things going forward. Maybe not as much in the kind of creative side as they do the other roles, but they can all play either linearly or across the midfield in a three horizontally. And so if you're the next manager that Tottenham have to face, Arteta for example, and now he has to think about more than just the 3-4-3, but the 3-5-2 that has Decky at right wing back, the 3-5-2 that has Bissouma as a 6 or an 8, and Højbjerg as a 6, 8 or 10 for example, then how much time can that team play practicing and drilling for one set of outcomes versus the plethora of outcomes that could be employed by Conte if he gets familiar with the 3-5-2. So I think the indirect benefits of moving to a 3-5-2 in the variety of different formations that we can play it, even if we start games as a 3-4-3 and then move to a 3-5-2 when we're comfortable in the game, or even if we're uncomfortable, the more that we do that and utilise the different positions in different ways, the less predictable Tottenham are going to be. And I think that that is in and of itself a wonderful asset to have, because the defence will only be able to spend, the opposition will only be able to spend a fraction of the time studying and preparing for any one of those variables. Whereas currently, when all we really use is a 3-4-3, smart opposition teams can just drill defensive plays on their training pitch all day long, getting ready for a very predictable Tottenham. Unpredictability is a very, very important asset. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, because I'll also say this, right? I was on a show last night. I was on the Irish Hotspur with Jack and Dave and Ben from We Are Tottenham TV, and we were talking about the formations, and if 3-4-3 doesn't work, and for whatever reason we go down in a game, like we're losing a game or it's just not clicking, what do you pivot to? And the only really formation that we've seen being used when we're losing a game, apart from against Leicester on Saturday, was when we went to a 4-2-4 against Chelsea momentarily. And it worked in that we got the goal back, but then it didn't work because we didn't have enough time to quickly pivot back to a more solid formation, and as a result we ended up conceding again. To me, the 4-2-4 is madness. It's gung-ho. We don't have the defenders to play in a 4 at the moment. Maybe we could do if Longley and Romero were to strike up a formation and a partnership, but I'm not entirely convinced that that's something we should be really dabbling with until we've got a far better centre-back to play alongside Romero. But the 4-2-4 is gung-ho, right? It's far too aggressive. It leaves you far too open. As soon as you lose the ball, you can get absolutely torn apart by fast breaking teams. And so I don't like that. But I think a lot of people might be fooled into thinking that if you're playing 3-4-3 and you're losing a game and you need to chase the game, that the only formation that would work is one that's technically more offensive than a 3-4-3. And I think that's madness. You can change the dynamics of a game and allow you to be more creative by plugging the holes and fixing whatever is the reason that you're losing in the first place. And I think that if we were to start games with a 3-4-3 and it not work out, moving to the 3-5-2, it might seem like a defensive switch up, but actually I think it's more just around filling the holes. The reason why we would be losing 3-4-3 is probably because we're getting overrun in midfield. Now that we've tried the 3-5-2 and it worked so effortlessly against Leicester, we should have the confidence now to be able to employ that strategy either from the start or introduce it in every game that we play in a variety of formations, like I've said, so that we become less predictable on top of becoming more confident and capable in the midfield. I think it's the most necessary change that Tottenham can make between now and January. And when we get to January, we'll maybe have to go into the market and plug some holes that we have, improve in some places, and hopefully then give ourselves even more options. I'd love to know how you would like to see the 3-5-2 implemented, if you agree, or if you're happy with 3-4-3. But if you do like the idea of 3-5-2, what would be your formation of choice? Would you like to see Decky at right wing back, or would you, are you happy to see Matt Doherty or Emerson remain there? Perisic on the left or Sessegnon, or is it a game by game thing? If it is a game by game thing, then let me ask you to focus on the Arsenal game. It's only about 10 days away. Super important game, massively important game. And I personally think that if we went with a 3-4-3 against Arsenal, we would struggle. I think if we go with a 3-5-2, we'll have a stranglehold on the game in the midfield, and I think it opens up a lot more confidence in my mind that we can grab something from the game. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I love talking to you this morning. Like, share and subscribe, and as always, guys, bye bye.